Okay, time is 9:30. We call the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors meeting of July 9th. Call it to order. If you would please help in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin the meeting, just a comment or two. There is a camera over here which records our meetings, both video and audio. This meeting is being recorded by WQLN and is broadcast on the Spectrum and YouTube.com channels with closed captioning available. Moving on to item number 3. We have openings for public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Do we have any public comment on agenda items? Being none, we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. Questions, comments, corrections, additions, anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 25th minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 5 is approval of the bills. Any questions on the bills? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 6, financial accounts request. We'll turn this over to Mark Jaheski, our Township Treasurer.
Yeah, thank you. We recently moved 2 bank accounts from 2 different banks, PNC and Erie Bank, to Pliget for higher yield on the interest. What I would like to do now is close those accounts because the monies have been moved. There's a little bit remaining in each account due to interest for the month of May. And so what I'm doing is recommending that we close PNC account 61-0163-4907, the performance and surety bond account, and Erie Bank account 4203816, the state liquid fuels account, because those accounts now exist at Pliget.
Okay.
That's the Pennsylvania
Local Government
Investment Trust.
Yep. Questions, comments from the board? If none, I'll entertain a motion for that transfer or closing out of those accounts.
Yeah, Mark, just a motion to close those accounts.
Do I hear
That's
a
all
second?
it is, yes.
I'll make a motion to close the accounts as described.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
And Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 7 is capital budget amendment request. Mr. Zahaski, back to you.
All right, just a second here, so let me get rid of that.
Okay.
Thing. Okay, coming up, there's a storm sewer repair project on Bondi Drive. Was not originally in the budget, so we had to find monies in order to cover that expense. The channel cleaning at Sullinger Avenue is not going to take place this year. I guess we haven't got the permits or whatever the case may be. So I am recommending that we cover the $18,747 Bondi Drive storm sewer repair with funds from the channel cleaning from Sullinger Avenue.
Okay. Okay, questions or comments? Just a quick question for Matt Waldinger. What is the status of the permit application for the Sullinger project?
Currently,
know?
we have GPI Greenman Peterson
Mhm.
doing wetland investigation, which
Right.
is required of the state in order to submit the permit.
Yeah, right. Just a quick note there for the public that may want to know about this. Wonder why things take a little time to get repairs done. We have to get permits from the state, and to do that, we need engineering services because a lot of things have to be delineated and sized accordingly. So this is just one of the parts of the process. So,
Correct.
Okay.
Matt, do we have any concept of what the schedule is to get that permit approved? Or to get the information submitted to
No,
DEP?
not that I'm aware of. I can check with Emma. George has been
Yeah.
coordinating it. We do need to gather all the information that's required by DEP before we can submit it for their review.
Right. Okay.
And that's the project where our own forces are going to do the clearing, right? Or is that going to be contracted out?
Potentially, depending on what is approved by DEP, what can be done. It may be something that we can do ourselves.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. Mr. Buck,
Yep.
any questions? I apologize.
No, just an update. I did speak with Emma maybe a week or two ago because I had gotten a couple calls regarding that area, and Emma related to me similar to what was just conveyed regarding the permit process, and you know, it appears the timeline has kind of been moved up to probably the spring of next year.
Yeah.
That's the timeline she gave me right now, the estimated one. So just a little update there.
It's just as frustrating for us as it
Yeah,
is for the
she's-
residents in the area and the businesses, so.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, anyway, with that said, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the capital budget amendment.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Item number 8 is bids and quotations. First one is engineering services for Shoreline Station Modification Project. This comes from Planning and Development Department. Matt Waldinger.
Yeah, thank you. We solicited proposals for engineering firms to provide services related to the modification upgrade of the Shoreline Sanitary Sewer Lift Station. We did receive 2 proposals back, one from Greenman Peterson for a lump sum bid of $24,000 even, and one from Herbert, Rowland, and Grubik for a lump sum of $59,800. It's the recommendation of Sanitary Sewer Technical Manager Dave Wright that the contract for engineering services be awarded to Greenman Peterson for the lump sum of $24,000.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve the contract with GPI for $24,000.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Our next item is emergency generator for the Wolf Road, Asbury Woods, and Evans Road projects for the Public Works Sewer Department. Gary Snyder.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. We're seeking permission to purchase 3 emergency generators for 3 different pump stations from Shadler Yesco under the CoStar's contract number 008-024. The cost of the Asbury Woods generator would be $25,000 or $25,400. The Evans Road pump station is $25,900, and the Wolf Road pump station generator would be $46,500, for a total of $97,800. The difference in price is simply the difference in the electrical size for each pump station in order to be handled.
Right.
It would be my recommendation that we purchase these 3 generators. This is part of our ongoing rehabilitation for all our lift stations from Shadler Yesco under the CoStar's contract.
Right. And of course, the importance of this, in the event of a power failure, we still need these stations to operate.
Correct.
Very simply stated. Okay. Okay, questions, comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Shadler Yesco for a cost not to exceed $97,800.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item, Asset Inventory System Award, and that comes from Administration Department. Mr. Zaheski, you have information on that.
Yes, thank you. As part of the round 2 of the EIP grant, we received an award for an asset control system. So we went out and, because this was below the bidding requirement of $20,600, generally speaking, we didn't do a formal bidding process. It's more like telephone quotes, but we provided more information that you would normally provide in a telephone quote. So some of the information was closer to what you would expect in a RFP proposal. But that being said, I'm going to recommend that we go with Industrial Appraisal, who's not the low bidder in this particular instance. We received 2 quotes, one from Industrial Appraisal for $17,045, and then another one from Asset Control Solutions, Inc. for $7,000. And there's 3 reasons that I feel are important as to why the selection of Industrial Appraisal is the appropriate one. First is that Industrial Appraisal is familiar with the township's operations. They've maintained our asset records for the past several years and clearly understand the scope of the project. Second is the other vendor, Asset Control Solutions. They submitted a quote that's significantly less than their previous quote. Previously, they quoted $21,000, and now they quote $7,000. They're based out of Chicago. They have travel costs. I don't see any way they get this done for $7,000.
Okay.
And the third is that their quote is defective in as much as they reference a to be determined amount of square feet. They clearly had far more information than was necessary for them to provide an adequate quote.
Yes.
And so therefore, even though they're the low bidder theoretically, I don't think their quote is adequate. And so therefore, I'm recommending that we go with industrial appraisal. The $17,045, half of that will be paid for by the EIP grant.
Okay. Mr. Shaw, can I refer something to you on this? Are there
Sure.
any comments? Are we within the confines of what we're allowed to do for bids?
I think based on the description that Mr. Zahesky gave with respect to the bid and the defective nature of the quote, I think it's appropriate to disregard that quote and then award the contract to the lone remaining bidder, who would be Industrial Appraisal
Industrial
Company.
appraisal there, okay. Okay, questions or comments? Jim, John? Anybody?
Gentlemen, I'll just say I know Mark and Melanie did a pretty thorough vetting of
Yeah.
these firms. We've had these discussions.
Yeah.
I want since the beginning of the year to try and figure out what options there were for the best firms to go out to. And I support Mr. Zachesky's recommendation.
Yes, okay.
I do as well, and then I think with the grant received for,
Right.
roughly $8,500 in our cost, I think this is a worthwhile project. It's long overdue here.
Yeah, and it appears that this is one of the rare examples where the low bid is not the best bid, and because there are some defects in it. So appreciate the comments from Mark on this, and of course my fellow supervisors. So with that said, do I hear a motion to approve with the correct bidder?
If I could,
Yes.
just real briefly, Mr. Chairman, the documentation that they provided in terms of an agreement, we'll need to make this subject to my review of our form agreement,
Okay.
subject to my review and approval, and to authorize you to sign then once I review it. The only thing I saw in their general kind of terms and conditions that raised a little bit of a flag for me was their limitation on damages that they had, limitation of liability that they had. And it's not atypical for vendors such as this to limit it to the cost of the contract. Mark Zachesky and I spoke and thought that we'd come back with suggesting that it'd be limited to their insurance limits, which we've done before as well. So we'll take that swipe at it. And if they balk, frankly, neither Mark or I see much risk in agreeing to their ultimate limitation in any event. But that's our initial tact, and I would make your vote subject to that recommendation.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I make a motion to direct Mr. Shaw to proceed with developing a contract with Industrial Appraisals Incorporated for a cost not to exceed $17,045 for our asset inventory system.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Let's see, our next one under bids and quotes is reline pipe on Bondi Drive from Public Works. Gary Snyder.
Yes, we are seeking permission to hire Insight Pipe Contracting, LLC, to reline 220 feet of 18-inch storm sewer on Bondi Drive at the CoStar's contract number 016, cost of $18,746.20. We have relined part of this pipe upstream a few years ago, but it is corrugated metal pipe and has continued to rot. This would be downstream from that, and it would be from one spill to the next. And it is an unbudgeted repair, but we are developing holes in people's front yards. So it does have to be done, and that was part of the request from Mark for the budget amendment. So I would put that in form of a motion to that pipe reline for the
Okay.
cost.
You're recommending that?
Yes,
Okay.
recommended.
I need to hear a motion from somebody on that. Any questions, first of all? You guys are fully aware of what's going on. I think we've all talked to the residents up there,
We
yeah.
spoke with Gary yesterday
Okay.
regarding this.
Okay. We need to make a budget transfer on that there, Mark Zahaski?
Yes, that's what we did with the,
With the previous one, that's what I
Yes.
thought. Okay, just want to make sure we haven't done anything else. Okay, with that said, I need to hear a motion from somebody.
All right, I make a motion to approve the contract with Insight Pipe Contracting LLC for a cost not to exceed $18,746.20 for the Bondi Road Storm Sewer Relining
Okay,
Project.
do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Our next item is item number 9. It's a public hearing on proposed ordinance 2019-12, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the Millcreek Township zoning code relating to signs. Mr. Matt Puz, our zoning officer.
Morning. So we've been working on amending the sign ordinance now since March of 2018. So we've put in a significant amount of work into this. We've had a public hearing at the Planning Commission, took input from realtors and anyone who really wanted to give us input, sign companies. I mean, we've taken a lot of information. The highlights of the amendment, residential district, we're going to permit monument signs between 24 and 32 square feet. These are for legal non-conforming uses and conforming non-residential uses. Also permit electronic message center signs at no more than 12 square feet as a conditional use, which would be approved by the governing body after being reviewed by the Planning Commission. In C1, we're restricting signs to 24 to 32 square feet based on frontage, and that's due to the fact that its proximity to residential districts. We don't want signage to blemish the surrounding residential districts. C2, we're encouraging monument signs over pylon signs. Monument signs will be permitted at 50 square feet, while pylon signs will be permitted at 32 square feet. The C2 district currently permits 60 square feet for pylon signs. C3 and C4, we're basing the signage on the tenant space. The larger the space, the more signage you're permitted to have, and this is to help the mall tenants, the ones who have large spaces, so they can adequately advertise their premise. Then the resort commercial district, all signage there that requires a permit will be a conditional use. Again, that goes in front of the Board of Supervisors and for their approval after being reviewed by the Planning Commission. I did notice in the text that we have, section 145.87, the signs permitted in the RC commercial district. Section A, 2, B, and C had an error in it. And I believe what happened was the sign ordinance, a couple sections were moved, which caused the references in that section to not be appropriately designated. So at this time, under conditions for conditional use, B, the applicant shall demonstrate that all requirements of section 145.86 are met, is what it currently says. That should state 87, 145.87, and 2C for electronic message centers, the applicant shall demonstrate all sections of 145.88 are met. That should read 145.89. I don't believe these are substantial changes. This is just to make sure that the amendments function properly. That was the section, the amendment was reviewed by county planning. This is what was sent to them. So it was something that I noted, and I just wanted to make sure that it was stated on record that it was changed. As far as the planning commission recommended to approve this on May 7th, 2019, after, like you said, all the input that we had on it.
Okay. Okay. And you said the county, did I hear you correctly, the county also recommended, or?
Well, they reviewed it, and
They
it's
reviewed it.
consistent with their
Okay.
comprehensive plan
With the
as well as
comprehensive plan,
ours.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the one change, I should mention, temporary signs in commercial districts, 16 square feet or less do not require permits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's up from, and this is only in commercial districts, up from 5 square feet did not require permits. Now it's 16 square feet or less do not require
Yeah.
permits. And
For
these are just
commercial.
Correct, and
Yeah.
temporary signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had received a lot of comments from the Realtor Association expressing concerns about having permits for realty signs.
Yeah.
So kind of the compromise was to say, well, you can have the 16 square foot, which I think most of the realtor companies use 16
Yeah.
square foot
I think they're
anyway.
easier for them to handle and, you know, to set up on site. And, of course, now, just for clarification, so the public knows, temporary signs include real estate signs, you know, the listing of property for rent or for sale, but also political signs. They are treated the same because they are considered content neutral because of a Supreme Court ruling about 2 years ago, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We do not treat
Just wanna
any
make sure
signs different.
Just for clarification, we all know that, but just for the public to know that too, so, okay.
Matt, real quick on the correction that you noted, was that, did you say 145-87? What is that?
Yeah, section 14587,
A1 or A2?
or 2B.
A2B and A2C? Okay. Just for supervisor's information, those changes were noted, so the form that we have on our screens here is the corrected version.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
wanted to make note of that for anyone who may have had an
Yep.
old.
So Cheryl, you should have the corrected version already for signing.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the board before I take public comment on it? Anything, John? I think we pretty much covered. Okay, we'll open this portion of the hearing for public comments or questions in regard to this ordinance. Do I have anybody in the public that would like to speak on regard to this proposed ordinance? Okay. No one to speak in regard to it? Okay. Let the record show that no one here has been here to speak in regard to this matter. So therefore, the hearing portion of this is closed. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to make one more comment that I should have mentioned earlier regarding electronic message centers.
Yes.
Currently in the ordinance, there's a requirement that they cannot be within 250 feet of a residence.
Mhm.
And that section's being removed because the zoning hearing board has granted variances, probably about 12 variances on that matter, which shows that that is not conducive to regulating signs and that.
It's not realistic.
Correct. So I just wanted to mention that
Okay.
as well.
Okay. With that stated there, okay, we will close the hearing. And therefore, next item on the agenda will be action on that. It's item number 10. Action on ordinance 2019-12, which is an amendment to the zoning code regarding signs. Do I hear a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-12.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes?
And I also vote yes.
And Mr. Gross, want to thank Mr. Waldinger and
Yes.
Mr. Puzz and Ms. Maggio for all the work on this over the past year, and the
Mm-hmm.
Planning Commission. I think it's a great
Yes.
step for us to start implementing the Embrace Millcreek recommendations of trying to have some more standards on our major corridors to kind of
Mm-hmm.
improve the look and consistency of the township, and also when it comes to electric message signs. I know we had previously kind of outlawed those in some districts until these design standards were created. I think the standards that these gentlemen have created really do fit
Yeah.
what we're trying to accomplish in the township, and also open up more flexibility for our businesses
Right.
to be able to advertise with electric message systems without having them be kind of a little garish as they tend to be.
Exactly, and I totally agree with you. You know, one of the nice things about this is the requirement for monument signs instead of the pylons. You know, you go to other towns and you see the monument signs there, and they're much more aesthetically pleasing. Doesn't mean everything's going to change here, folks. Just on new developments, or if there's a new sign put in, you'll probably start seeing more monuments there, and that works out very well. I think the Sheets is a good example of it. The Sheets at 8th and Peninsula. It's a great sign complex down there, the way that is set up. So enough said about that. Did I get a motion in a second?
Yep, we're all
Okay.
good.
Okay, yeah, we're voted on that there. Okay, good. Moving on to item number 11, which is Resolution 2019 R35. It's a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. And this comes from Chris Filson, who's our IT director over in the police department. He is requesting that we allow the disposition of dash cam videos from July the 20th through July 23rd, when they reach the end of the required retention period. So I think that's all we have on that. So I need to hear a motion to approve that. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-R-35.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 12 is Resolution 2019 R36, personal property sale policy. And as of late here, right before the meeting, Mr. Shaw has recommended, because we're not completed on that,
Yeah.
we should table it.
Yeah, this is a policy that was, that we located, it was adopted about 25 years ago, and we're in the process of making sure that it's still consistent with current law, and I was out last week, and Mr. Snyder was out before then, so we haven't had a chance to connect and make sure that it meets his needs, given that he is probably the person who has most of the things that would fit under this policy. But we'll be prepared for the next meeting to
July the
have you vote
23rd.
on
So
that.
we need a
Yes.
motion to
So I would
table this.
that. Yes.
For the July 23rd. Do I hear a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table item 12 to July 23rd.
Okay, there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 13 is financial security release request. Our first one is Zbracco residents. I hope I pronounced that right. Greg and Rachel Zbracco are the developers. Matt Waldinger, what do you have?
Thank you. Yes, this is for release of the financial security for the Sparaccos. They did have to post security for the residence they were building because it required stormwater management. Both GPI, Greenman Peterson, and Rob Donikowski, our inspector, have been out there to ensure that everything is complete. We do have an engineer certificate signed by Township Engineer Ann Sokol saying that the project was complete and the funds should be released. So I'd like to ask for release of Bank of America check number 3080 in the amount of $6,000 back to the Sparaccos.
Okay. Okay, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve that request.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial security release.
Wait a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Our next financial security release for Lena Courts, Tommy Montagna as a developer. Matt Waldinger.
Yes, this is for the Lena Court Apartments. It is before you as a security release, but actually what's happening is the Montagna family has gone to a different bank for their financial security. So they have replaced their existing PNC letter of credit with a new letter of credit from Northwest Savings Bank. That letter of credit from Northwest has been presented to the township and is in full effect. So at this time, we'd ask that the board release the PNC letter of credit, number 18103-583, in the amount of $97,385.20, because it has been replaced by Northwest Savings Bank letter of credit in the same amount.
Okay. Questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to specifically release the PNC Bank letter of credit for Lennox Court Apartments.
Okay, we hear a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, let's see here. Our next one, item number 14, sidewalk deferral request regarding 4102 Falmouth Road. Matthew Gattenby is a developer. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Gattenby contacted the township. He's building a home at 4102 Falmouth Road. He has requested at this time that sidewalks be deferred. We've looked at the area and there are no other sidewalks in the area. He has presented a grading plan and will include it on the permit, a drawing that shows the sidewalks in place where they will need to be if they are ever constructed. So at this time, we would recommend that a deferral be granted for this sidewalk at 4102 Falmouth Road.
Okay. Questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the sidewalk deferral request.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 15 is the June building construction report. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you again. Yeah, in the month of June, we had 12 residential permits issued, which included 6 brand-new residential dwellings for a total increased value of over $1.3 million. We had 23 non-residential permits issued with an increased value of $265,000. So all total, in the month of June, we had 35 zoning permits issued for a total increase in value of $1.6 million. That generated $3,000 in zoning permit fees for the department. This report will be on the website later today, and it will also be available in hard copy in the Planning and Development Department if anybody would like one.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Let's see here. Item number 16, communications. Mr. Heskey, do you have anything for us?
Nothing further now.
Okay. John, do you have a few things for us?
Yes, John, we have a request from Human Resource Office regarding Sebastian Puda, one of our employees in Planning and Development. Mr. Puda's job offer included a provision for an additional increase of up to 2.5% pending a 6-month review. Mr. Waldinger, I believe that review was completed.
Yes, Ann Sokol Township Engineer completed that review and reviewed it with, or went over it with me, yes.
Okay. So, gentlemen, this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the increase of Sebastian Puda of 2.5%, which increases annual rate to $58,395.48, effective July 1.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Let's see, everything else there, John?
We also have a hiring request. Mr. Waldinger, you want to cover that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we would like to request Bethany Civic to be hired as summer help in the Planning and Development Office. She is currently conducting an internship for her degree, so she will not be available to start until August 1st. She is very helpful in the department. She scans a lot of our information so that we can offsite our records. She also does customer service, and she helps with other projects around the office. So I'm asking that we have permission for her to work between the dates of August 1st and September 13th at the regular rate for a third-year returning employee, which is $10 an hour.
Okay. Questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, let's see here. Myself, all I have is we had executive sessions with our solicitor regarding some legal matters on June 27th was the only one we had here. Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Bach, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay, Mark Shaw.
Yes, just one matter that came up late in the day on yesterday, and I've given you copies of this, but there was a question with respect to, this relates to the Wolf Run Drive stormwater issue that occurred last summer, and we're in the midst of hopefully wrapping that up and finalizing it. When the repair work was done this spring, the soil levels of one of the adjacent property owners needed to be brought back up, and so we have a quote here from Manzi Services to do that work for $650. They met with the Lewis and talked about what they were planning on doing, and it's my understanding that they're fine with this, and then once this work is done, the Lewis can then proceed to hire their landscaper to finalize their landscaping. So I would recommend that the board approve hiring Manzi Services to complete this work for $650.
Okay.
And this would get submitted to the carrier.
Okay. Just for clarification, since this is not on the agenda, we will have to get public comment. We
Correct.
need to get our motions first on it. We hear a motion on this bill here to be paid.
Make a motion to approve the invoice to Manzi Services for $650.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Now's the time. Do we have any public comment? Since this was not on the agenda, we do offer this time for anybody to comment in regard to it. Okay, being none, we'll call for a vote. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Shaw?
That's all I have.
Okay, right to know report there. Cheryl Williams, what do you have?
For the month of June, there were 6 requests. 5 have been completed. 1 is actually still pending. There were 3 partial denials, 1 granted, 1 denied, for a total of 20 hours of preparation time.
Okay. Okay. Matt Puz, do you have anything else for us? No? Okay. Matt Waldinger.
I do have one item I just wanted to notify the public, that Conrad Road, just north of Norcross Road,
Yes.
will be closed beginning next Monday. We anticipate it being closed for less than 2 weeks, but it will be closed to replace a culvert under the road, and it will not be open to any traffic.
Okay, so we'll want to get that out to the media too. I think we have a rep from one of the stations here, so
Yes, we'll
hopefully
distribute
get
it,
that out.
and it is
Yeah,
on
of
the
course,
township
yeah,
website as well.
It'll be on
just so
there
you
too.
know.
So, okay, thank you. Gary Snyder, anything?
I have nothing more.
Okay. Public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience here who would like to speak in regard to anything? Being none, call for a motion to adjourn at 10:07 a.m.
So moved.
Okay, we're out of here. Thank you.